It's a beautiful Friday morning. Welcome to our second hour. Mind Shift Friday is what we call it. Every Friday we have intriguing conversations to help us look at things differently and see things from a different perspective. And this morning we want to zero in on leadership, but look at leadership from a slightly different angle as we discuss servant leadership. We get the opportunity to hang out with the founder of Aslead. This is Reverend Dr. Peter Mulinge. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great. How are you?
Sana.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me again in the week.
Yes. If you watched on Monday, Dr. Mulinge was with us on Monday. And Monday he basically shared quite a bit about his life. I think for me the thing that intrigued me is how he started serving his pastor from the age of 15, and even he planted a church, and that journey led him to where he is today. And we want to find out more details about that. Let me begin by asking you, Aslead, what is Aslead all about? What is Aslead?
Aslead is an acronym of Africa Servant Leadership Development Institute. Mm-hmm. It's a concept that I started when I was in the US.
Okay.
I remember one day we came out of a class and we had some students from Nigeria, from Zambia, Malawi, and South Africa.
Okay. Were you also a student? Were you studying at that
Yes,
point?
we were students,
okay,
both of us. Mm-hmm. And then we had it was a break, lunch break, and then we were doing some lunch and doing some coffee. And then we were taking a leadership class. Mm-hmm. And we started asking ourselves, why is it that Africa has lagged behind economically, socially, and in so many ways? And we were comparing with the state that we were in, California, which is drier than Machakos.
Yes.
And yet it is one among the richest states in the US.
Okay.
There is no river flowing through California. California imports or gets its water from Colorado. And yet the state is very rich. It's an exporter. And then we asked ourselves, why is it that Africa, our country, Nigeria, South Africa, and Zambia, they are rich country. And Zimbabwe, we had also a student from Zimbabwe. We were 5 students seated, and then we were trying to ask ourselves, what is ailing Africa? The richest continent in the world, yet the poorest continent in the world. And in that discussion, we zeroed on leadership. And we realized that the problem that is making Africa and has made Africa the way it is, is nothing else than leadership. And then we break and we said, let's meet again later. And we continue with this discussion. And then later we went out for coffee at the Starbucks. That was within the organization, within the university. And we continued talking. And one pastor from Nigeria asked this question: how can we become an instrument of change? Because we have this burden in us.
Now that we have identified the problem,
we have identified.
What can we do?
What can we do? And then we gave ourselves, because we are all pastors, we gave our time. We said, let's pray. Let's give ourselves time to pray and then come back again and see what we can do. Yeah. Because we all come from what actually we say the superpower countries in sub-Sahara, in Africa. Yeah. You think about Nigeria, you think about South Africa, you think about Kenya. Yeah. These are the countries that we would say they are superpower in sub-Sahara, in Africa. And then after a week we met again. And then we said, how can we say an idea had been dropped to me. Let's form an initiative that we can go out back to our country and then try to see how best we can bring change. And then, we again said, let's go again and then think of a name. then God dropped to me Africa Servant Leadership Initiative. And then we started the process, thinking how we can make it become a reality. And unfortunately, one pastor from Zambia was called back by his church. And then the guy from South Africa, he got a job in another state. Okay. So I was left alone with the Nigerian pastor. And then we started thinking. And then again, my friend from Nigeria, Timothy Nwan, was also called back in Nigeria because he's one of the top guys in the Koki Church of Christ International. Yeah. So I was left alone, but the dream kept on me and burning in me and asking myself those questions. We were getting in touch with these guys even when they were out of the state. Yes. And then I said, okay, I'm going to start it. I approached Anthony, a lawyer in the U.S., and I asked him, how can I register this organization in the U.S.? And he told me it's possible. You are a student, you can register it. And he helped me. And by the grace of God, I registered as a non-profit in the U.S.
So you registered it in the
U.S.?
Yes. Okay.
Africa Servant Leadership Initiative. And then I said that, okay, I want to start training here. I started training leaders on servant leadership. But I coined the term transitional leadership. Because also the other problem that we realized was the issue of transition of leadership in Africa.
Yes, that's a huge problem.
And then throughout my research, I found out that the colonial masters of our continent, they never mentored leaders in Africa. And in another way, we never accepted to be mentored because we were there fighting in the bush for independence. So we saw there wasn't a good transition and a preparation of leaders who were to assume leadership after independence. So I started training that in the U.S.
So did you have to sit down and come up with a curriculum? Did you already have something in mind of what to
While
teach?
I was in the U.S., there was no curriculum. It was just a topic, transitional leadership. That's what it started doing on well. People started getting to know about transition, the importance of transition, and the concept of finishing well. How are you finishing at the end of the day? How are you preparing the other generation to take over leadership? So that is the thing. And then I was in college, and then the professor came straight to me. That's when I was doing my DMINI program, Doctor in Ministries. And then after a week, the doctor looked at me and he told me, Peter, last night, God spoke to me. And my wife also confirmed, God is calling you back to Africa, to your country, to go and start, bring up another generation of servant leaders.
How did you receive that message?
You know, me, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I
can imagine.
I did like it. I did get it because you see, I was training in Africa, in the US. I actually that time he spoke to me on that. I had 25 people who were taking classes, and of course they were paying. And then he comes and he tells me that. And that professor, I will never forget. In the class, it was for my first year, he told me, Peter, he kept on saying, on this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell, you are the rock. Throughout the 4 years,
he kept telling you that.
Students started calling me Peter the Rock.
Peter the Rock.
And then one day he became my mentor, and even today he's my mentor. We usually Zoom once after 3 months. So in a year we meet 4 times. Last time I was in the US last week, I got opportunity to go and visit his old guy. So he challenged me. It's time now to go back in my second year. Time to go back to Africa and start this thing.
Yeah.
I told him, but I'm not known, you know. When I came from Kenya, I wasn't known. Nobody.
No one knows
he
me.
told me, just to call any leader that you know in Kenya and in your church that you belonged, and they tell him that you want to come and do this and this and this.
Yeah.
And then I called a friend of mine, nice friend of mine, a very close friend of mine called, he passed on, Abisai Mwaka of Redeemed Gospel Church. And then I shared with him what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he told me that I'm going to call people, pastors, and you come and teach. You are one of us.
Yes.
I'm going to organize for you. And then he asked me, how many people do you want? I said, about 15, 20. About 15, the number should not go because, you know, I was kind of timid. I didn't really want to get ashamed about it. I wasn't known.
Yes.
You know, I had lost a lot of contacts. So, okay, we arranged. I came April, and then he organized it. We got 65 pastors.
Ooh.
Friends Center in Mulinge.
Friends Center Mulinge, yes.
Yes, that's where I did my first pastors training program in Kenya.
So what did you talk to
And
them
then we
about?
talked about transition. And then let me tell you, it was like a wake-up call for pastors. And you know, there were churches that were going through a transitional issue, you know, and then they said, this is what we need in Kenya. How often will you be coming back? And then from 2010, April, I started coming to Kenya every summer, training leaders. About transition. This was about transition.
Just about transition.
It was about transition. Then I trained Mombasa, Malindi, Bungoma, Mumias, Machakos, Kitui, Nairobi.
Wow.
So, and I would come every summer, and sometimes I would come during Christmas. But most trainings I used to do during the summer. That is from July, August, and then I go back to school.
Yeah.
And I go back to work. And good enough, the church that I was serving, the one I shared on Monday, gave me big support. They would just pay for my tickets, come back to Kenya, do all this training. They could even support me. How can we buy them food? And it was for free. We were not charging.
Oh, the training you were not charging?
I wasn't charging.
Wow.
And then I developed a manual, training manual that time.
Yes.
Which was so I would train, and then all what the leaders would buy, they would buy the material. And then we would not charge them.
Yes.
So we would give them food with the support that I was getting from my church that I was doing in the US. And then we went. We ended up, by the time we got 2015, when I finished my Doctor of Ministries, I had trained over 800 church leaders.
Wow.
And then the Lord started speaking to me, come back to Kenya.
Come back home.
Come back to Kenya.
Yeah.
Then I went back, then I met another, 2016, I decided to come back to Kenya. Then we said, in that year, I got involved with the Makueni County government.
Yes.
With the former governor, Kibwana, and he liked the idea. And he told me that you should be now training my staff.
My staff.
I trained all this mawaziri, the CEOs, and about servant leadership.
Yes.
And they liked it, and they brought a lot of transformation in Makueni County. And actually, that's now, I had transitioned from transitional leadership development to servant leadership. So we're seated one day, and another, I met with another professor in Kenya, and he told me, do you know, I've listened to what you do, but if you could go and study from a secular university about servant leadership, you can reach many people, both the Christian and the secular leaders. So 2016, I was invited in a conference where John Maxwell was one of the speakers. then I went back to the U.S. The conference was in San Diego, the state where I lived, or the county where I lived, and the person who invited me told me that, Peter, would you mind, when I was going to the U.S., he told me that, would you mind becoming a fill-in speaker? When the main speaker is resting, instead of people getting bored, so come in and they talk about 20 minutes or maybe 15 minutes.
See how God works.
So now I went there, was given that 15 minutes, and I spoke about servant leadership and how it is helping leaders in Kenya realize who they are. And what God made them to be, and the need of serving other people. So afterward, I didn't know John Maxwell was seated there listening. So after that, then a friend of mine who had accompanied me, and he asked me, "Oh, John Maxwell liked what you talked about." And he asked me, I asked him, is it possible to meet him? Yes, he asked him. And he talked it to him, and John Max, yes, we can do coffee after the conference. Then we went out for coffee, and then we shared he told me that you've done it great. You know, you talk servant leadership from being perspective, from the character perspective. I talk about it from the doing part. And that actually fascinated him, because, you know, when you go through the transition is about you. It's not about others. How are you going to handle transition in the church? So I had, and also I had met with another a professor who is also known, was written a lot of books, Ken Blanchard, and he had mentored me in one way or another. I had also met with the guy who formulated servant leadership from Greenleaf, who was also my professor, Raleigh Spears. And then the concept is about how can we stop from talking about the doing. Because most leaders and most leadership style, they concentrate on the doing. They don't concentrate on the being. On the character of a leader. And what Jesus did, Jesus never emphasized on the doing. He emphasized on the transformation of a leader from the inside. And then when John Maxwell asked me, Peter, what can I do for you now? Pray for me. And both John Maxwell and myself, I knelt it down, and John Maxwell knelt it down. And he prayed for me. And he said that, Peter, I don't want to come back to Africa. We have men whom God is raising in Africa. To change leadership and to transform leadership. So that was it. I came back to Africa. I went back and I joined a university. I looked for a university that actually has got an emphasis on servant leadership. And I found one called Gonzaga University, which is a Jesuit, and they have emphasis on servant leadership. So I went through that program 4 years, but I kind of stopped it because I needed to finish the program in 4 years. I wanted to finish in 3.5 years because I had this burden to come back to Kenya. So I kind of restrained myself from coming back to Kenya. I concentrated there. I was doing my PhD, but I would come back to Kenya and do some research on the being of a leader. And also doing US and make some calls from different countries talking about leadership. And then I finished my program. After finishing, I started working there, teaching colleges and also doing some consultant and coaching on leaders. And then I felt, one day I felt, go back home.
Go back home.
It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big sacrifice because I had gotten a pay rise.
Yes.
And I had gotten more responsibilities as a professor.
That is when you know if God has called you or not.
And I restored.
I know.
I bought a ticket. I cancelled my trip 3 times.
Wow.
Before the time the Lord was telling me, go back.
It's time to go.
After COVID, decided to come back to Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it is an NGO in the US.
Yes.
Now I came back to Kenya 2011. No, 2021.
2021.
No, 2020 November is when I relocated back to Kenya. And I went ahead, registered Africa Servant Leadership Institute in Kenya. And then after registration and getting accredited by NITA.
Yes.
You see, getting accredited by NITA, having drawn my curriculum, 9 modules, which are here, I hit the ground. My first class was in a very remote place called Kambo, on your way to Mombasa.
Yeah.
6 students.
Just 6.
6 students. And then after that, the bishop told me that I can introduce you to another bishop in Kitui. Then he introduced it to me, to that bishop. I went there, I got another class of 27 church leaders. And so he told me, I want to get you to introduce you to another
Somebody
bishop
else, yes.
in Matu on your Yata. Then I started. I went again, I formed another class of 25 pastors. And that is how Aslead, servant leadership, began, and that is how Aslead evolved in Kenya.
When you talk about servant leadership, how can you define it?
I look at servant leadership as a philosophy where one believes I am called to serve. I put the interest of other people before my own.
Before
interest.
my own.
I don't ask, when I get a position to serve, I don't ask, what is it in for me? I ask myself, what can I do for you? That is how I see servant leadership.
Yes.
Listen, our Lord Jesus came. When he came, he said, I never came to be served, but I came to serve.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? The calling of a leader is about other people. It's not about you. And this is where, when we were discussing with these 4 pastors,
yes,
that is where we missed the mark. 50 years, our country cannot be this way. It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because leaders who take power is about them. It's not about Kenya. It's not about Nigeria. It's not about Zimbabwe. It's about me. It is my time.
It is our time to eat.
It is our time.
Yes.
That is not servant leadership. Servant leadership, a servant comes and say, what can I do to bring a change, a transformation, a change that will affect the other generation. You create an environment in that organization that will benefit the other generation. In other words, a servant leader creates something that will live behind him. Not after I'm done,
yeah,
and I go with my institution.
Yes.
After I have done, my organization dies. After I grow old, my church closes or maybe splits.
Yes, and we've seen that happen so many times.
Yes. You look at that person, and I got a time to sit with the people and talk to them. And the pastor is amazing how people, we are so much concerned about ourselves. I usually say that we love ourselves more than other people.
Yeah.
But we care a lot or more about people's opinion.
True.
When you live here, James, how about your generation? They come to you. Most people are good leaders, but the opinions of other people
Yes.
make them to become not the leader or where they're supposed to be. Servant leadership is about otherness. It's not about one.
I'm just curious, if you ever got an opportunity to address our leaders, our political leaders, what would you tell them? What subject would you talk to them about?
Put the country ahead of your interest. Period.
Period.
Put the interest of your country
Yes.
ahead of your own interest, ahead of your tribe. Even if I were to speak to church leaders and
Yes,
bishops,
yes.
I would tell, put the interest of the church, the body of Christ, ahead of your family.
Wow. Hapo ndio shida iko.
And that's what I would tell politicians. The country, Kenya, should not be where it is today. We should be far
ahead.
We should be. We should actually be comparing with some other countries like Singapore, but because of selfness, it's all about me.
And
It's all
what I can
about.
get.
It's all about me.
Yes.
It's all about. And let me tell you, I wonder, what did Jesus mean what would benefit a man if he accumulates all the wealth of the world
And loses his soul.
and then loses his soul? And then let me tell you, we have got so many leaders here who are walking, but they have lost their soul.
That is sad.
And they are in a big position,
Yes.
and they have lost their
Their
soul.
soul. That is so sad.
Because they put the interest of their own interest above the interest of God's people,
Yes.
forgetting that it is God who gave them that position. You could be whoever you are in the society. You could be a bishop, you could be a pastor, you could be a politician, you could be a cabinet minister, you could be the president. Unless God gave you that opportunity, you wouldn't
You
become.
wouldn't become.
And
It's
the
true.
best thing is to say, I came here not to serve my interest. I came here to serve the interest of God
Yes.
first. And let me tell you, and I want to say, many people are dead. They have lost their soul, even when they are leading, because it's all about themselves.
Yes. Aslead
they have
Institute.
seen.
A couple of things that probably been able to see in that video about who they are and what they do. And in case you just joined us, it's Mind Shift Friday. We're talking about servant leadership. We are hanging out with the founder of Aslead Institute. This is Reverend Dr. Peter Mulinge. And, for the radio listeners, the clip we were showing is basically just showing some of the things that Aslead is doing in raising up servant leaderships in the community. And we want to talk about how that happens and how you can be a part of it. So, Dr. talk to us about Aslead. Do you have one center where you're doing all this training, or how does this work? Because I realize you are focusing on leadership not just in one aspect of society. You're focusing on leadership in general.
Yes.
So how do you do that?
There is one concept that we have.
Yes.
Go where they are and bring them where you are.
Oh, I like that.
That's
Go where they are,
And bring them.
bring them where you are.
So what we do, we have our head office in Long Mombasa Road,
Yes.
Gateway Mall, 4th floor. That's where our head office is. But we are spread out. What we usually do, we go to a particular place, we sell the idea. And when people accept the idea,
Yes.
we start a class there, a campus there. So, like yesterday, I just came from Loitoktok, a place called Kimana. We started a class there of about 28 pastors.
Wow.
And we have some other classes in Bisil, Kajiado, we have Kitengela, we have Mombasa, and we have whole Eastern Province, and we are lodging Western Kenya, and we are lodging also Narok. So we go where they are, we talk with them. Once they accept, we start a class there. Why did I decide that?
Yeah.
I wanted people to feel that they have reached. Jesus went where they
Where
are.
the people were, yes.
He never asked them, come to me. The only Jesus who tell people, come to me because I'm the bread of life.
Yes, yes.
But Jesus was going where they are. And that's the model that we used, going to where they are. We organize those meetings. We train them. Our program takes 6 months.
6 months.
And it's a program composed of 9 modules.
So in these 6 months, how often are you meeting in a week?
We meet, it's so flexible. We meet only 1 day in 2 weeks. 1 day in 2 weeks. Then after every 2 weeks, we meet only once. And we meet only 2 days in a month. After every fortnight, we meet again.
Yeah.
And when we meet, every module must cover 8 credit hours. We meet 8:30 up to 4:30.
Yeah.
And then the modules, I developed the module in a way that they are interactive. And reflective. 3 things: interactive, reflective, and applicable.
That's what I was looking for.
So within these 2 weeks before we come to the next one, you've got to interact with the questions that are there. You feel them.
Yes.
And then you reflect on that. You write your reflection thoughts. How is servant leadership? You reflect on it. How can I apply it?
Yes.
So you feel all those questions. You bring back that module. I get to go through them. I give some comments. Of course, there is no pass or failure.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of our training. There is no, how can you fail a bishop? How can you fail a professor? Because we have seen some professors take our course. So there is commendation. And then we give it to you. And then you go and practice. So all the 9 modules,
yes,
I developed them.
Yes.
They are well researched, and they are work in progress. Why they are work in progress? Because I get to know a lot from the people that I teach.
Yes.
These people, they know a lot. So once I received a concept, I note it down, or maybe when I'm interacting with the module, I note that the concept.
Yeah.
I come and add it. So like every 6 months, the modules are changing. They are evolving.
They're evolving.
And most of the modules that I started, like they had only 10 pages. Now most modules, they have about over 20 pages because they have become rich. And this is the contribution and the experiences that I get from my students.
Okay.
So we are spread out.
I'm just curious because we live in a technologically advanced world today. A lot of things have gone online. Do you also have an online option?
We do have a virtual class.
Okay.
Mostly, actually, I want to say is for people who are working. We conduct a virtual class that actually meets every Monday and Friday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We meet only twice in a week.
Yes.
So that we can meet the curriculum of 8 hours for every module. And many people are liking it. Actually, the current class, we have 29 students now. That's good. And they come from all over Kenya.
That's good.
We've got people, actually there is one who is joining virtual class from Philippines. And there is another one who was asked from Israel. And another one who was asked in the next Hintech.
Yeah.
Actually, we are getting, there is another one who was had from Nigeria. And this one from Nigeria, the bishop said, no, you come in Nigeria.
Come teach us physically.
So we are making that arrangement to go to Nigeria. So that's how we do. We go where they are. And we train there from their context.
Yes.
And by that we have minimized the cost. Think about if you were to tell somebody to come from Bisil or from deep Magadi Sota to come and train in Nairobi. The farthest class in Ukambani is a place called Mutito-Andoa. It's far from Mutito. You almost travel about 2 hours driving there, almost at the border. And there are people there who have embraced the program. And it's changing. We have witnessed MCS, current MPs, current MCS, and even those who lost. I remember one lady who lost in the election.
The elections, yes.
She said that now next time I'm going to pass. I'm not going to lose. I have known why I lost it.
That's good.
So that's how we conduct our classes.
That's good.
And as you have seen, our costs are flexible. They are not a lot. It's only per module, it's only 1,850.
Wow.
It's affordable.
That's very affordable.
Easy. Because my desire is how best can I reach many people? How best, because it's transforming. Let me tell you, people who have gone through it, they always say that, I wish I knew this before. Yesterday I was in Kenama and another bishop said, Daktari, I wish when I was young, I got an opportunity to understand what servant leadership is all about. Majorly we deal on the being of a leader. And I realized that God never created a doing person. He created a human being. He never created a human doing. He created a human being. And you know, doing comes after your transformation. Perfect doing comes after your transformation. When your being is transformed,
your doing will follow.
You are doing well. I always say that we should be mindful, caring more about the inside and the becoming. I always tell my students, we are always becoming something.
Whether we like it or not.
You are becoming
whether
something.
We are aware of it or not.
So the question is,
what are you becoming?
What are you becoming? And I remember one day I asked a politician, now you are becoming a politician. Who are you becoming?
What did he say?
I don't want to say.
If somebody was to ask you, what kind of person would you encourage to take this course? Who's your target audience?
My target, they are the church leaders. Because remember, do you know why we focused on church?
Tell me.
Because Jesus said something. You are the light
of the world.
Let me see, if the light of the gospel and the character was brightly shining in the church, it would affect the secular world.
True.
And if there is darkness in the church leadership, what darkness would
there be in the world?
In the world. And that is where we felt the calling to speak about light. Transformation in church leadership. And let me tell you, the future of leadership is servant leadership. Organizations in the West that have embraced servant leadership, they have transformed completely. They have made huge profit. And Aslead, that is what we are trying to do. We have a skeleton staff, but we are trying to. I'm trying to instill the discipline of servant leadership.
What are some of the topics you cover in these 9 modules?
The first module that I cover, especially for Christian, the program we call it for Christian. We call it servant leadership. Lead like Jesus. And then for the secular, we call it servant leadership.
Okay.
And some of the concept things that I talk more about the character of a leader.
Very important.
And I'm telling you that module number 2 is the one that blows.
Yeah.
I've told in every church, in every meetings,
Yeah.
and the people, they have repented. I have led people to repent. Yesterday I did. They said stop.
Yeah.
Let's pray for us,
Pray
a prayer
for
of
us,
repentance.
yes.
And not even here, I've seen it in so many. So and we talk about the integrity.
Very important.
And then we talk about stewardship. And we talk about the life and the leadership transition. And then the last one, we talk, how can you build your legacy? Because let me tell you, you'll never be remembered, you'll only be remembered for what you did for others, not what you did for yourself.
Yes.
And the most of the time, we want to remember for what we did for ourselves. For example, and this is what I tell people, Aslead is not about Peter.
No.
It's about it's about you and everyone who comes to servant leadership to Aslead. They know that it's about them.
Yeah.
So my target would be church leaders, politicians, businessmen, community leaders, fathers and mothers.
Ooh.
Because another problem where leadership is not done well is the family.
It's the family. Yes.
So the program is holistic. We touch every fiber of the society.
Yes.
We reach everyone. If I go to politicians, I talk like a politician.
If you're talking to pastors, you talk like a pastor.
I talk like a pastor. When I go to businessmen, I talk like a business. When I go to village elders, I talk in their language. When I go to pastors, I talk in their language. When I go to youth, like we are starting actually, I realized that after research, I realized there is a need to create a program for mentorship.
Yes.
For children who leave high school,
yes,
and they are making that transition to colleges.
Very important.
And in July, we are starting our first class.
That's wonderful.
I want to bring them, I sit with them, help them to understand what God wants. Who are they?
Who are they?
Because they do not, most of them, they do not know who they are. And they need to be responsible. Even if they go to college, they need to be responsible. As they transition to colleges,
yes.
And my desire is, and my question and my prayer is this country to start a mentorship transition program. And many people, I pray that many people will raise up and then start those organizations, mentorship transition program, so that before these kids, they go to university, they go through that program.
Yes.
They are mentored. They take about 6 months
yes.
in that class. They are mentored. They know who they are.
They know who they are.
When they go to colleges.
And I think
so we target all those groups.
Very true. And I think that's one of the areas where a lot of young people lose direction in life. That's that transition between high school and college, and the whole struggle with identity, because you're meeting people from all walks of life, and you get lost in all that, wondering, who am I? Do I become like this one? Do I become like this one? Confusion sets in.
I'm also glad for Behold Success. I know you might have heard about Behold Success.
Yes, Beyond Success, yes.
Very,
that's
very,
where we met.
Oh,
that's
led by a very, very good lady, Lydia Ziwa, and Ziwa, doing a lot, even trying to reach the youth. The
youth, yes.
You see? And that's one program I would commend people to think about, even as they think how they can come to our program.
Okay.
So that's we need to prepare the other generation.
Yeah.
That's why we say in the transition, we as lead, we prepare another generation of servant leadership who will lead for the sake of others.
When you think back to all these people you've trained, pastors, community leaders, businessmen, what are some success stories that you can share with us?
is actually I've had so many people confess that actually it has transformed me. You know, we talk about you.
Yes.
That's in our training, we don't talk about them.
You.
We keep on telling people, and we warn them, because sometimes we don't want to seem as if we are judging, but we ask them for that permission. When you hear us talk about you, then, because that is our Aslead, it is developing James, Pastor James. It's not developing them.
Yes.
It's touching about your character. So that's why we talk this pronoun you. And I have seen some actually say, do you know what, actually, Pastor, I've started serving my wife.
Wow.
And then for me, if somebody can serve his wife or can serve her husband, I think they will serve the community.
They will serve the community. Even the Bible, when it's talk about those who should be pastors, it begins by saying they must be good managers of their own home.
I have one of our students who is a graduate, is an ex-military guy.
Yes.
And he said that when he went through this program, he started washing his wife's clothes.
Wow. Serving.
And do you know what?
Yes.
He has seen a lot of transformation at home. His children. Another pastor friend of mine, a Maasai guy, and you know that is typically not Maasai.
Yes.
After going through this, he went home and cooked for his family.
Oh.
And I'm telling you,
I'm sure they were shocked.
Like a big
I'm
debate.
sure they were shocked. Yes.
It was a big debate,
Yes.
all this and that, this and this, until the wife came and he said, I want to join this program.
Oh.
The wife came because of what
she saw at home.
At home. Another guy who is a businessman, he came to me and he told me that, do you know that, Peter? My relationship with my employees has transformed.
Wow.
Because one thing, I never was a listener.
Oh.
I've learned to sit down and to listen to my people. And let me tell you, he told me that people have now started, his employees, they come to him and they tell him even some things that have been going around. So you see, people now, they are open.
Now people
because they see somebody who can listen to them.
Yes.
And they can even he told me that there is one who was going through hard issues, and he has been my employee for quite time. He has never told me that he was going through rough issues.
Wow.
And when I asked, when did you told me 5 years I've been going through
my
this.
goodness.
And why did you tell me? And he said that I was afraid. But when he started listening and getting involved with them, just taking some tea with them, sitting and having lunch with them, making some large outings with them and getting to understand that they opened up, and the input and the output has increased.
To that individual who's listening in and they want to connect with this program, maybe there's a pastor listening and there's a bishop listening and they're thinking, I think we need this.
Yes.
Or maybe there's a business person thinking, I need this for my leaders.
Or a politician.
Or a politician who's listening in.
Yes.
Yes, and they're thinking, this is what we need. How do they go about it? How do they reach you?
Or they can either reach me through on my phone direct, that is 0729 29 2265, 0729 29 2265, or maybe they can reach me also on a 0780 29 2265. They can reach me, and or maybe they can go to our website, Aslead, www.asleadinstitute.org, or maybe Aslead Institute.
Yes.
They will find all the details there. They will find their courses there. They will get somebody whom they can talk to. There's a number on the website where they can reach us. And then we can go to them. We'll never task them. To actually, what we do after we is when we tell people, you can come to our office, see where we are. because we don't want to appear to be a pocket institute,
yes.
or suitcase, or
Yeah.
we are authentic, we are
Okay.
genuine,
Okay.
and
What-
we live for the sake of God's people.
What about those who want to join online? Is there an ongoing current class? Do they have to wait for the next class? How does online work?
Actually, I've received some phone calls. We want to start another one. On May, we want to start a virtual class.
Okay.
And even right now, there are some people, you know, what I do is this, maybe I never said that. When you graduate, we offer some people opportunity to come. We give them a TOT program.
Aha.
We train them.
Yes.
And then we dispatch them
To train others.
to train others, and then we go and help them make sure that they have started that class. And it picked up. Right now, I have 27 tutors.
27. Wow.
Man, I can't go all these classes. I only
Yes.
go. Actually, there are some other classes where we meet at the graduation.
Okay. Because the other tutors have done
because
the
the
job.
other tutors are doing their job,
Yeah.
and they are doing fantastic job. And let me tell you, when you go out and start a class, you get paid. It's an extra
It's an source of extra
way
income, yeah.
to make an income.
Yeah.
So is something that actually I don't want to hone it. I don't want people to think it's all about Mulinge. If Daktari is not here, we can't. I have trained so many, and they are doing wonders. Machakos, Mombasa, Kajiado, Bisiu, they are doing wonders, and we bring these students. But you've got to go through, and there is somebody else who came to me. I've done all leadership, and I want to be training. I told him, go through our program. He has stated. But when he went through the program, and he's a professor.
Yes.
Actually, he's a professor. When he went through the program, he told me that, Peter, I think I've done a lot of programs in leadership.
Yes.
But this one is quite different.
Because it touches you on the inside.
It touches you.
I like that. My time is up. What's your parting shot to that leader who's listening in today?
Desire to serve God's people. That's actually, and ask yourself, why am I in this organization? Ask yourself, why am I a politician? Why am I a cabinet minister? Why am I an MCA? Why am I a governor? Ask yourself that question. Am I here to serve my own interest? Ask yourself, why am I a bishop? Why am I a pastor? Why is it that God has brought these people to me? For what purpose did God bring these people to me? My parting shot is this: serve God's people.
Amen.